Have you ever watched your grandchild struggle with something, maybe tying their shoes, solving a problem, or even just putting away their toys, and found yourself stepping in before they had the chance to figure it out? It's such a natural instinct. We love these kids so deeply, and it's only human to want to make life a little easier for them. After all, isn't that part of what being a grandparent is about, offering comfort, protection, and support? But here's something you may not hear often enough. Sometimes, the most loving thing we can do is not step in. As grandparents or caring adults, we bring a special kind of wisdom to the table. We've lived through decades of parenting, working, failing, learning, and trying again. And because we've been through it all, we often spot the solution long before a child even realizes there's a problem. But here's the thing, independence doesn't grow when we fix everything for them. It grows when we let them try, struggle a bit, and discover what they're capable of. In this video, we're going to talk about how to raise independent, confident kids without the stress and without that gnawing feeling of guilt that so many of us experience when we see a child face difficulty. Because, believe it or not, giving a child space to figure things out doesn't make you less caring. In fact, it might just be one of the most powerful gifts you can offer. Let's start with something simple but deeply impactful, letting go of the need to rescue. It's so common to jump in at the first sign of struggle. A child is trying to zip up their coat and fumbling with it. You reach out without even thinking. They're trying to pour milk and spill a few drops. You grab the carton and do it for them. Again, all done with love. But when we constantly step in, even in these small ways, the message a child begins to receive is, "You can't do this on your own. I don't trust you to handle it." That message doesn't come from our words, it comes from our actions. And over time, it chips away at their confidence. Kids need practice, just like we did when we learned how to drive a car or cook our first meal. They won't always get it right on the first try, but the trying is what builds the skill. So the next time you see your grandchild struggling to button their shirt or reach a high shelf, pause. Give it a moment. You can say something like, "Looks like you've almost got it. Do you want help, or do you want to keep trying?" That simple shift, offering support instead of assuming control, plants the seeds of independence. It lets them know you believe in them, while still being nearby if they need you. Another powerful way to raise independent kids is encouraging problem solving instead of providing answers. When a child comes to you and says, "I can't find my shoes," the easy response is to tell them where they are, or better yet, just go grab them. But what if instead, you gently guided them to figure it out? Something like, "Where did you last see them? What places have you already checked?" You're still helping, but you're also inviting them to think for themselves. This builds what's known as critical thinking. And even at a young age, children are incredibly capable of thinking through situations when we give them the chance. They might not always get it right, and that's okay. What matters is that they're learning how to process, reason, and eventually, trust their own judgment. And here's a little bonus. When kids solve a problem on their own, no matter how small, they feel proud. That pride turns into motivation. That motivation turns into resilience. And before you know it, you're no longer hearing, "I can't do it," but instead, "Let me try." Of course, none of this means we stop helping altogether. It's about shifting how we help. Instead of doing it for them, we guide them to do it with us, or eventually, on their own. And that's the kind of help that sticks. Now, let's talk about something a bit more emotional, letting go of the guilt that often shows up when we encourage independence. It's such a delicate balance, isn't it? On one hand, you want your grandchild to grow up strong, capable, and self-reliant. On the other, you want them to feel loved, cared for, and safe. And sometimes, those two goals feel like they're in conflict. Maybe you've walked away from a child who was crying in frustration over tying their shoes, and later thought, "Should I have just helped? Did I make it harder than it needed to be?" That little voice of doubt can get loud, especially when we're doing something new, even if it's the right thing. But here's something worth remembering. Helping a child build independence doesn't mean you're being cold or uncaring. It means you're playing the long game. It means you're giving them the space to grow into someone who knows how to take care of themselves, bounce back from failure, and try again after a mistake. And the beautiful part? You don't have to let go of love or connection to do that. You can still offer warmth, hugs, and encouragement. You can still be their soft place to land. But you're also being their launch pad, the person who reminds them, you've got this. Kids are incredibly intuitive. They pick up on how we feel, not just what we say. So when you approach them with calm, quiet confidence, when you show them that you believe they can do it, they start to believe it too. And when they stumble, as they inevitably will, you'll be right there to remind them that stumbling is just part of growing. So now that we've touched on stepping back, guiding instead of fixing, and letting go of guilt, let's move into some more ways you can support a child's independence while still keeping that loving connection strong. Because as much as independence is about what we let go of, it's also about what we encourage, and that brings us to something really meaningful, allowing kids to make choices, even small ones. One of the simplest ways to foster independence is by giving children the opportunity to decide things for themselves. And no, we're not talking about big life choices like where to go to college. We're talking about little, everyday decisions, things like what shirt to wear, which snack to have, or whether they want to do homework before or after playtime. You see, choice builds confidence. When a child gets to make a decision, even a small one, they feel capable. It sends a message, I trust you to make good choices. That trust, especially coming from someone they look up to, is powerful. And here's the magic part, you're still guiding the outcome. Let's say it's lunchtime. Instead of asking, what do you want to eat, which can feel overwhelming, you could say, would you like a sandwich or scrambled eggs today? You've offered two reasonable, healthy choices, but the child still feels in control. They get to practice decision-making within a safe boundary. It's a little like when we first taught our own kids to ride a bike. You didn't just say, go figure it out. You gave them a bike with training wheels, held the seat, ran alongside them. The same idea applies here. When you offer structured choices, you're holding that seat steady, you're giving them the stability to start pedaling on their own. And sometimes, they'll make choices that don't work out. That's okay too. Maybe they choose to wear their favorite sandals on a chilly day and come back with cold toes. That experience teaches more than a lecture ever could. And because it was their choice, the lesson sticks. Another beautiful way to raise independent kids is to let them contribute to daily life. Now, this one is especially close to my heart because I've seen how it transforms a child's sense of purpose. So many kids today grow up in a world where everything is done for them. But when we invite them to be part of the rhythm of everyday life, helping with meals, feeding the dog, watering plants, it gives them something more than just a task. It gives them a sense of belonging. And I know what you might be thinking, it's faster if I just do it myself. And that's true. At first, it is faster. It's easier to fold the laundry, sweep the floor, or clean up the playroom alone. But when we take the time to involve children in these things, we're teaching them skills for life. More importantly, we're showing them that they're a valuable part of the family. I remember one day when my grandson was visiting, and I asked him to help me make pancakes. Now, he was only 5 at the time. Did we spill flour on the counter? Absolutely. Were the pancakes a little lumpy? For sure. But you should have seen his face when he served those pancakes to the family. He stood a little taller. And later that day, he asked if we could make dinner together too. That pride, that sense of I can do this, that's where independence starts. And again, it doesn't have to be big things. Letting them stir a pot, match socks, or help set the table, those moments matter. They teach responsibility in a natural, joyful way. And as they grow, they'll remember how capable you made them feel, simply by letting them do. Now, we can't talk about raising independent kids without touching on the importance of allowing failure, without shame or rescue. This one can be the hardest. Because no matter how old they are, watching a child fail, whether it's a spelling test or a friendship or a bike ride gone wrong, it tugs at your heart. Our instinct is to fix it, to soften the blow, to shield them from the sting of getting it wrong. But here's the thing, failure is not the opposite of growth, it is part of growth. And how a child learns to handle mistakes depends a lot on how we respond when they make them. If a child forgets their homework or spills their drink or loses something important, and we swoop in with, "See? I told you that would happen," or "Why weren't you more careful?" We're teaching them to be afraid of messing up, to feel shame instead of learning. But if instead we say something like, "That must feel frustrating. What do you think you could do differently next time?" We're helping them learn to reflect, not retreat. We're showing them that mistakes are a normal part of life, not something to hide from. And if they come to you in tears because something didn't work out, you can be their safe place without solving it for them. "I know that didn't go the way you wanted. Do you want to talk it through?" That one question opens the door for real growth. When kids know that failure is just a step toward learning, not the end of the road, they start to try more things. They become braver, more curious. And that's where real independence begins. So whether it's giving choices, encouraging contribution, or allowing failure with grace, every one of these moments becomes a brick in the foundation of a child's confidence. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to show up with love, patience, and the belief that they're capable of more than they know. Next, we'll continue with even more ways to nurture independence while staying deeply connected. Because the more we offer children space to grow, the more we realize that independence isn't about pushing them away. It's about walking beside them while gently encouraging them to take the next step on their own. And that brings us to another powerful piece of the puzzle, teaching them how to manage emotions, not avoid them. Now, you might be thinking, what does this have to do with independence? But if you really think about it, managing emotions is one of the core life skills. A child who can calm themselves when frustrated, speak up when something feels unfair, or express sadness in a healthy way, that's a child who will grow into a capable, resilient adult. But here's where we often get it wrong. Out of love, we sometimes try to fix a child's feelings. If they're crying, we might rush to distract them. If they're angry, we might say, "Stop it. That's not a big deal." And while we mean well, those responses can teach a child that big feelings are bad, or that they're not allowed to have them. Instead, what helps most is simply being present with their emotions. Letting them feel what they feel, while reminding them they're not alone. You might say, "I can see that really upset you. Want to talk about it, or it's okay to be disappointed. I felt that way too." When we do this, we help children name their emotions and begin to understand them. And once they start to understand those feelings, they can start to manage them. That's where independence blooms, not just on the outside with chores and choices, but on the inside, too. Think about how valuable that is. A child who can recognize when they're overwhelmed and take a break, who can speak up when they feel nervous, or ask for help without shame, that's a child who can navigate the real world with confidence. And all it takes is that steady, supportive presence that says, "I hear you. You're safe. Let's figure it out together." Another beautiful way to support independence is by respecting their pace, and that includes resisting the urge to compare them to others. It's so tempting, isn't it? Especially when you're in a room full of kids. One grandchild is reading at 4, while another is still learning their letters at 6. One's climbing trees and making friends, and another seems more quiet and cautious. It's only natural to wonder, shouldn't they be doing that by now? But here's something we've learned over the years, every child grows in their own way, on their own time. Some bloom fast, others unfold slowly. And often, the quietest kids are soaking up the most. When we respect their pace, we're telling them, you don't have to rush. You're enough just as you are. That message creates a sense of safety, and safety is what allows kids to take healthy risks, to try, to fail, to try again. So instead of saying, your cousin already learned that, we might say, I love how you're figuring that out in your own way. Or, you've made so much progress, I see how hard you're working. Focusing on effort, not comparison, builds internal motivation. It helps a child grow into someone who doesn't need to be the fastest or the best, just someone who keeps showing up and trying. And really, isn't that what we want most for them? Now, as we come to the heart of this message, I want to remind you of something important. Your presence in a child's life is already making a difference. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to follow every piece of advice or do everything right. What matters most is that you care. That you show up. That you're willing to listen, to guide, to love them through every stumble and step forward. Raising independent kids doesn't mean stepping back and letting them go it alone. It means offering the right kind of support that builds confidence rather than dependence. It's the quiet kind of help. The patient kind. The kind that says, I believe in you. I trust you. And I'll be here no matter what. You're not just shaping what a child can do, you're shaping how they see themselves. Whether they believe they're capable, whether they feel safe taking risks, whether they know it's okay to be imperfect, all of that starts with the way we love and guide them. So if you've ever second-guessed yourself or felt torn between stepping in and stepping back, I want you to know you're not alone. Every grandparent, every parent, every caregiver has those moments. What matters is that you're here, thinking about it, choosing to grow right alongside the kids you love. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't fixing a problem or giving the perfect advice. It's just sitting beside a child, hand on their back, and saying, "You've got this." Because they do. And thanks to you, they'll know it. If today's message resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Maybe you've had a moment where letting go led to a breakthrough, or maybe you're still learning how to find that balance. Either way, your story matters, and sharing it can help someone else feel a little less alone. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. It lets me know this kind of content is helpful to you. And if you'd like more gentle, supportive tips like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. There's always more to talk about, more to learn, and more ways we can grow together. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope you walk away feeling encouraged, empowered, and maybe even a little lighter. Raising strong, independent kids isn't about doing it all perfectly, it's about showing up with love, again and again. Here's to growing confident kids, and living your best life at any age. Take care, and I'll see you soon.